Hey everybody, welcome back to another stream. Today we're going to be looking at something that I think is pretty dang cool. And that is the Wii HDMI mod that I've been working on. So let's get you zoomed in a little bit here. See what we're talking about here. So if you're on the Shmups forum, you might have seen the earlier version of this mod before. If you've been on my website and ever read my blog posts about what I'm working on, you will have seen the earlier version of this one before. Let's see. The old version looks like this. Very similar to the new version, but with some pretty significant and important changes. What this is it's an HDMI mod kit for the Wii. Specifically for Wii motherboard revisions after the RVK-CPU-40. So RVK-CPU-40, -50, -60, and RVK-CPU-01 and CPU-02 Wiis are all supported on this one. What it does is, like I said, it adds HDMI output to your Wii, which is cool. It's a GC Video product, so it was based on the same basic design, like firmware and everything, as all the GameCube HDMI out mods. This was heavily inspired by the Wii Dual mod by Citrus 3000 PSI, or Dan at Black Dog Technology. Form factor wise, it was inspired by that. I wanted to fit it into a package that worked well in the Wii, and I think I've achieved that. This package here fits perfectly inside of this motherboard revision, and the way it works is there's a few different boards here, and basically on the Wii, this right here is the AVE RVL chip, which is the video DAC for the Wii. So it takes the digital video out from the GPU and converts it into analog signal that goes out to the AV port. What this does is it sits right here, right in this spot here, gets soldered in place, and then we solder wires over to AVE RVL chip, and we pull digital video out of the Wii, convert it into an HDMI compliant signal, and then it connects with a ribbon cable like this right here, and goes over to this board here, which contains an HDMI port and gives you HDMI out. This third board is the actual new feature of this new version of this mod. It sits right over here, and it contains an infrared receiver and a button. And the features that adds is that you can control the menu with an infrared remote. Normally, you would control the menus with a GameCube controller, but some of those newer Wiis, the RVK Wiis, don't have GameCube controller ports, so you can't. The old design, you couldn't control it at all if you didn't have GameCube ports. This design, you can control it with an infrared remote. So that's the main new feature for this version of the mod. And that's about it. What we're going to do today is install it on this Wii here, and show off the new mod working. I've left links down in the description of this video showing where you can go to purchase the boards. They're freely available. It's an open source project, so you can purchase the boards, build it yourself if you choose to. Or I do intend to sell it on my website as well as a complete kit, with installation service as an option. So if you're not savvy with doing your own installations, I can take care of it for you. So let's go ahead and get this mod going here. So let me pop this out of the vise here for a second. I've temporarily got the heatsink screwed on with just some little M2 screws and a couple of nuts, and one of them came loose, so I need to tighten that back up before we try to. That's just so that I can do testing with the board out, not fully installed in the console. But I do intend to do a full installation on this stream. So that will include cutting the housing, showing you how to cut the housing to fit the HDMI connector through and everything. Okay. So there's going to be some soldering happening here. And it's very fine pitch soldering. It's not it's not for the faint of heart. If you're not very confident in your soldering skills, then this may not be the mod for you. Just be straightforward about that. Like I said, I do fully intend to offer modding services. So on this, with doing these installations. So if you need it, then I would be happy to provide it. This is a pretty advanced mod. It's a little bit of a time-consuming mod, so it may, I haven't set what the pricing is going to be just yet, but soon that will be figured out. Okay, so first of all, the way that this board is laid out, when you put it in place, you have all these nice little pads down here, and those all get soldered to this AVE RLV or RVL chip, rather. And so you got to run 13 little wires from here to this board here. So we start by soldering all the wires onto the board. I mean, onto the AVE RVL chip. And we're going to first get a little bit of solder, a little bit of solder onto our tip here, just a tiny little bit. We're going to go through and we're going to tin each of those legs that we're going to be soldering to. So that's that first one on the end there. That's going to be our first wire. Then we have these 3 wires here. And you know what? Got a little bit too much solder on there, so it's kind of, we're just going to go ahead and tin everything. We're going to drag that solder over and tin everything. Might as well. Try to get that solder off of there. And we are going to use some solder flux because, whoops, what I meant to say was desoldering braid, because, or solder wick if you will, because unlike Voltar, I guess we are not soldering like champions here. Okay, so that short's cleared. Let's go ahead and get in here and tin these here as well. Oh goodness, it happened again. Well, I guess we don't have to be champions. Alright, so now that those are all nice and tinned, we can go ahead and start soldering some wires. Before we do that, I'm going to double check one thing here, because I am pretty smart, but I'm not necessarily the smartest guy of all time. And I don't want to screw up the pinout that we're soldering to. GC Video. Okay, got my pinout up on the computer screen. So I'm using some 30 gauge wire. This is pretty fine, pretty good for this application. And what I'm going to do is just pre-tin the wire, and we're not even going to strip the insulation off. We're just going to apply a little bit of heat, because this is vinyl insulated wire. You might try using solderable magnet wire for this, like a really fine gauge solderable magnet wire. That would probably work really well for this. I've never tried that for this particular mod, but I think I did that with like a PS2 mod chip one time, and it seemed to work out well. So now you do have options here. You could solder to the group of vias over here. There is a pin out for that on the Wii, the GC Video Wii section of the GitHub. But I've never done that personally, and because you need really fine gauge wire, like really fine gauge wire to do that. Like I'm guessing like 32 or 34 gauge, and I just don't have it. So okay, that's one. Now I'm going to cut a little bit of slack on these wires because you never know. So I'm going to give myself just a little bit of slack to work with. And then we're just going to move on to the next one. So heat it up, shrink back that vinyl a little bit, add a little solder. And get in there and do the next one. Okay. And we'll just wash, rinse, repeat until we have successfully soldered all wires. Whoop. I was afraid of that. Trying to do this by by naked eye, and it is a bit of a challenge. Okay, that's good. Okay, the last one we need to get on this side of that little capacitor is right there. So there's three wires that connect up to those first three pads before that capacitor, and then the two pads where the capacitor is past the capacitor. So the capacitor is connected to you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are connected to this capacitor. So we skip over those and then we go to the next one. So let's get this last one soldered in. like a champion. See, we can be champions here. Even champions make mistakes every now and then. Even champions, once in a while, have to resolder a pin or two. You know, it's possible. No one's perfect. Okay. Yep, still looks good. All right. So now we're going after the capacitor. Oh, got ourselves a little bridge. Again with the bridge. There we go. Yep, that's good. Okay. We got this last one right here, and I believe we're done with this group. To double check the schematic, or the not schematic. It's not a schematic. What am I talking about? It's getting kind of tight over here, so we're going to switch over to tweezers to get this last one put in. And I'm going to rotate my view a little bit here and just get that right in there. This is a bit of a challenge. But I believe that is it. Let me double check under the microscope. You can still be a champion and double check the microscope once in a while. Don't let Voltar make you feel bad about your champion status just because once in a while you check the microscope. It checked out. It checked out. So we're good. Okay, so the next one is M. That is actually the next one over. So we still have one more to solder in this little group here. So we need to make sure that we've got these pressed as far over as we can so that we can get to that last pin there. Same drill here. We're gonna rotate around. It's a little bit easier for me to see. Get the tweezers in there. Get that last bit soldered. Make sure we got that soldering iron real clean. Not a bunch of extra solder on it. We don't want to bridge anything at this point. We really want to avoid bridging anything at this point. And that is good. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and tack down. I've got a couple of little pads, little castellations to tack down this board to a couple of components, which keeps it in place a little bit better, so it's not moving around all over the place on me. Go ahead and get that tacked in place. These points here are not electrically connected to anything on the board. They're simply acting as anchors. So, but they keep everything together. All right, that one is M, so it needs to be that long. You know, M, which is 54 megahertz, it's the clock signal here. You can also get it from this pad here, so if you don't want to solder to that little pin there, you really don't have to. I just did it because I'm a champion. I did it because it's hard mode. No real reason. Okay, so what we do next is we skip to... Whoops. We skip to pads. And we solder... Let's see here. We skip 2 pads and solder right here. Wait. No, that's not accurate. Give me just a second to double check. Let's see here. Ah. Aha, I say. Okay. So, here's what we do. We skip 2 pads, just like I said, and we solder right there. just like I did. There you go. Yep, that's called a cold joint right there. Let's add a little extra flux. There's still residual flux from the initial soldering. The initial prepping for the soldering, but I guess that's not enough. Alright, let's try soldering that again. That is still a cold joint. Let me add a little extra solder to this wire. It is, I guess, not tinned well enough. Okay, one more try. One more. If we don't get it this time, then I quit modding entirely. I feel like that's the only reasonable solution. If I fail that miserably, that many times. Okay, we got it. It was strong this time. Alright. That's clock select, so that's going to come over here. Is that actually strong? Yeah, it is. It's bending on the wire, not the joint. Okay. So I was worried I was going to have to quit modding there. I was really worried about it. There's a little bit of a bridge here at the end that I didn't take care of when it happened because I wasn't worried about it at the time. But I'm starting to get worried about it because we're getting pretty close to where I need to solder there. Alright, so that's cleared. Okay, now we skip one. Next pin is one past where we were at before. We actually have 2 pins in a row right there. So there you go. Okay. And that goes to data line 6. Get that out of the way. We got one more to solder right next to it. Okay, yep, that's good. That goes to data 7. Okay, all we have left is the clock lines, and then to actually solder everything together on the board, lift these up here. Actually going to go ahead and pre-tin the pads on the board. Oh, that it would help if I was using solder, not wire. Guess that would make more sense, wouldn't it? Okay. You know what? Let's go ahead and do the. We'll go ahead and do the audio. Okay, audio is pretty straightforward. It's just starting from the pin 31 up here. It's so pin 31, and then it's pin 29, and then it's pin 27. So you're just skipping one pin each. I'm going to go ahead and add a little more flux. Okay, that's actually going to be the B clock line, so that's going to go right around here. Sorry about that. That's going to go right there. Okay, the next one over is the audio data line, I believe is what it is. Not happy with that. Let's gotta get some more flux on there. You're just not getting a good stick here. Yeah, that's no good. Get a little bit more solder on the wire. Thought I had it tinned pretty good, but apparently not. Okay, That looks pretty good to me. Let's see how it holds up. Yeah, okay, that's sturdy. All right. This is the audio data. And then the last one is the LR clock or something. I don't remember exactly what it's labeled as, but something having to do with left, right, I assume. I can only assume. Okay. Okay. All right, so I got to double check under the microscope as always. Trust but verify. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Yep, all connections are correct. No bridges. Everything looks solid. Try to gently clean this area up just a little bit there. All right, so now all we have to do is connect the dots. So we'll start with the audio section over here, and we're just going to do the same deal. I'm going to strip back the wire with heat. And we'll go ahead and get those soldered in place. So we start, of course, with base clock. This is at the very end. And we're going to add some flux because it is not very cooperative without flux. Who would have ever thought that flux helps soldering? Helps soldering happen. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and strip back the video data lines with heat. Sometimes they don't cooperate, which is a shame. Okay, we'll go ahead and start doing video data. And we'll strip the rest of those when we get to them. I don't know why I cut clock select so long. Trim that down a little bit. Okay. Let's see here. Do these data lines need to be trimmed at all? I think D4 is fine. D3 is a little bit long. D2 is a little bit long. D1 is a little bit long. D0 is perfect. Okay. So let's go ahead and trim those down. Heat strip them. Okay. Oh, accidentally already got that one soldered. Okay. That looks done to me. So as you can see, it's not the easiest install in the world, but it's not impossible. It's just a little bit of work. And see, I did that with no magnification. I mean, of course, I'm using the microscope to double check my work, but the actual work was done just by, you know, naked eye. And I have good vision, but still, you know, it can be done. It can be done regardless. Yeah, everything looks fine. I don't see any problems. No shorts. All my joints are strong. Everything lines up nicely. This is well, I would call it success. I would call it success. Okay, so soldering is done. Well, the main portion of the soldering is done. Now there are a couple other things we need to do. So I've cut a nice thin little strip of ribbon cable here, and the ribbon cable is going to connect to two halves. So it's going to connect this little board here to the main board. So we're going to go ahead and attach that, and that board carries the infrared signal wire, the wire for the infrared switch, and it also carries 3.3 volts and ground for powering the whole system, and that all comes off of the AV connector, which is actually pretty convenient, if you ask me. It's a lot of functionality in one. Probably if I sell kits of this, I would pre-solder the ribbon cable to the two halves. That way you don't have to mess with it, because it is such a short run. It's kind of a pain to do in place. Okay. So that's ready to go. Let's go ahead and tin the pads for the infrared board. And I'm going to solder the infrared board in the air. I'm not going to do that in place, because I already know that I cut this cable ever so slightly too long, which means that if I try to solder it in place, it's going to be a major pain. But if I do it up in the air and then I fold it down into place, see, there's a little crease in the cable, but you know, makes the connection just fine. All right, and to solder this in place, all you have to do is add a little solder to the anchor right here. This is going into a ground plane, so it's going to be difficult to heat it well, especially using this fine tip I'm using. I'm just too lazy to change tips, so. Alright, and then you add some solder into this ground plane area. Alright, and then you can go ahead and solder all of the pins on this connector. That's fine to do. You definitely need to get the ground and the 3.3 volt pins connected for sure, which if you look at a pin out, that would tell you exactly which pins it is, but I'm just going to go ahead and solder all of them for good measure. Most of them are not doing anything, but it's all mechanical anchoring for this push button board and everything. Not that you're going to be really wailing away at this push button, but you know, whatever. I don't have to have a good reason. One of the other things that this board does is it sets the Wii's component cable detect pins, sets them as always detecting component 480p compatible cable, which is important because that's how you get 480p functionality. If the Wii doesn't detect a 480p compatible cable, then it won't work. You can still turn off 480p if you need. I think there are some Wii games that don't even support 480p, which is weird to me, but hey, it is what it is. Alright, and then the last thing is the actual HDMI board, which goes over here. And what you want to do is just kind of get it as flat as you can. And you're going to add some solder. I like to add solder to just one pin here on the USB connector, and then adjust the position of the board until the HDMI port is totally squared up with the rest of the board, so it's not going out at an angle. Then you just want to get that in place, and then your next objective would be to hit these big anchors, and you want to make sure that the HDMI port is pressed down as much as you can get it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Got ourselves a major short going on here. Let's get some flux in there. Oh. Realize that's hard to see. Okay. Okay, and then you'll hit the other anchor point here. Okay, and then now you just want to add solder to all the rest of the little data pins. And then this right here is 5 volt, and that's being used by the HDMI connector. Okay, so clean that off as well. Okay, that looks good. Last thing we need to do is solder the pad wire. I'm going to go ahead and remove this from the vise. So the pad wire is going to go over here to test point 27. That's the GameCube controller port 1. Excuse me. And that's going to run up here. To this pad that is labeled pad. Okay. So that's more or less what the installation should look like. Now the last thing to do is to attach the ribbon cable that's going to be connecting the HDMI QSB board to the main board. And that is just a 20 pin 0.5 millimeter, I think, pitch cable. This one's a little bit long. These are the ones I use for GC HDMI and GC dual installations. It's a little bit long, but it works. You just gotta fold it around till you can get the connectors both facing the correct way and plugged in, and you're pretty much good to go at that point. So that's basically what it's going to look like, and then I'll just add a little bit of electrical tape to make this look pretty. There you go. All right. So now it's ready to go. Let's go ahead and fire it up. Now keep in mind, this is the first time I'm testing this particular revision. Previous revisions have been tested and working, so I have no reason to believe this one won't. But it is a new revision, and several things changed. So if we have any problems, that's part of what we're trying to figure out here today. Go ahead and plug in the HDMI connector. Okay. Let's get our power supply ready. Get ourselves switched over to the game capture. Plug in a sensor bar. This Wii remote is not synced. I thought this Wii remote would be synced, but it's not. Okay. Well, we got something there briefly. Let's... Okay, we're getting a little something. Okay, what's the deal? Okay, let's see here. I'm gonna switch us over to my monitor, because sometimes this capture card doesn't like certain resolutions, and if this is outputting interlaced, that could be the issue. Oh, okay, yeah, that's the issue. Hold on a second. Let me get this. Let's try to use the remote. Well, that's not working. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Put in a GameCube controller. Well, it is working on the main screen. Let's try reconnecting it to our capture card. See if we get any kind of change here. Anything? Come on. Come on, AverMedia Game Capture. Come on. You can do it. I believe in you. Let's see here. Well, that's bizarre. That's bizarre. I don't have an explanation for that. Why won't you work? Okay, well, hold on. I'm gonna go back to the monitor and I'm gonna sync up a controller. Let's see here. Sync is which button? Is that one, I think. Okay. English, confirm. Above TV, confirm. Confirm, confirm. Widescreen, confirm. Okay. Oh, are you kidding me? Nickname. But I'm dead serious. That's what's happening right now. We gotta hurry up here. I don't have a fan connected to this thing. Alright, Wii settings. Settings. Screen. Resolution. 480p. Back. Okay. I've got it set to 480p natively. Let's see if the capture card likes that any better. No, it doesn't seem to. Capture card does not seem to like that any better. Well, I don't know what the holdup is. But here's what I do know. I know that the fan not being plugged in is going to become a problem here soon. So I'm going to go ahead and plug the fan in and just kind of stick it down there to get a little air moving. I want to demonstrate this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something crazy. Because this is working, but my AverMedia card is just a pain in the ass about things sometimes. I'm going to try unplugging my camera. in plugging this into my camera. Whoop. This is a dangerous situation I've found myself in. Good Lord, you have no idea. You can't see because you don't know what just happened, but this Wii fell down on my head. In its open, completely unprotected form. Okay, let's see what happens. Can you deal with this? AverMedia Cam Link. Can you deal? No. No, Cam Link can't deal. Oh, wait, let's see here. Nope. He doesn't like it either. That's bizarre. It works on the damn monitor. And historically, this mod has worked on everything. Could be soldering on the connector. Let's try this. Let's try this. This might be worth a shot. Unplug from here. Unplug from here. And switch it over to another board that I assembled. Oh, no, we can't do that. We can't do that because 5 volts has moved on to this board here, so it's not the same. It's not the same, okay. Well, damn. I wonder if maybe just unseating and reseating the cable might improve it. See, this AverMedia card is really picky about signals. Real picky about signals. It doesn't like certain things. Sometimes GameCubes don't output good video, you know, good solid HDMI signal enough for this AverMedia card. And also, it passes through these mini HDMI adapters before it makes it all the way to the card, so it's can be difficult. Go ahead and plug my camera back in. Okay, we're back. Let's try powering this thing back on, having reseated the connector. Something, anything. Nothing. Well, this is disappointing. It works. You have to trust me. It does work. Let's see. Maybe I can just switch you over and show the screen working. Could be the cable setup that I've got here. Could be this particular Wii. This particular HDMI mod. Okay. Let's get you off the mount here and take a look here. So look, there it is, working. It's the real deal. I can go into the menu, I can adjust things, it's all cool. Man, look at that. Isn't that cool? That right there is a Wii HDMI mod if I ever saw one. Now, the thing that's weird is that sorry about this. This is, I mean, I just do not have a good setup for this. As I wiggle the HDMI connector, I get weird behavior. I wonder if it's just a poorly soldered HDMI connector. Actually, that is exactly what it is. This HDMI connector is wiggling all over the place. Okay. Well, that could very well explain why we're having issues. Now what's weird is I added the support, presumably, for infrared, but that part of it's not working. Unless I missed something when I added infrared support, but so infrared support still doesn't work. Okay. I'll have to do more research on why that is. I actually don't know. Okay, well, that's enough of that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this HDMI port and try to solder it better. And then we can try the game capture again. And then whenever we get done here, I'm going to do some more research on why the infrared's not working. Why would the infrared not be working? Okay. Let's see here. So this HDMI port. Let's see here. Are you gonna focus? Camera. Woohoo. Camera. Oh. Hold on a second. Did we get off of autofocus mode? Oh, yeah, we got off of autofocus mode. Well, that explains it. Alright, so let's see what this connector looks like. It's kind of loosey-goosey there. Let's add a smidge of flux. Okay, and then let's solder these legs a little bit better. So the front legs didn't really get much solder. They're really the ones that anchor everything together. Okay. That certainly looks better. Let's see if it works. Let's see if it works at all. Would certainly be nice if it worked at all. Excuse me about the coughing and stuff. I've got a little bit of a, I guess a little bit of a cold. Anything? No? God, I hate this capture card. It's a little frustrating. Not gonna lie to you. Okay, I'm gonna run and get a different HDMI cable. Okay, this HDMI cable is the one I actually use for my GameCube and my Wii in my game room. So we'll see how this one does. Nope, same behavior. So my capture card just does not like the output from this mod. That's bizarre. The other version of this seemed to work fine. The only thing I changed is I moved some of the circuitry over here for the HDMI signal like detection. And let's see here. Take a look at this board here. Yeah, I moved the 5-volt signal detection circuitry over to here, which I can't imagine would be causing this big of a problem. Okay, one more thing we're going to try. Let's look past the HDMI cable and let's try to rework the, let's see here. Let's try to rework the flex connector. That's the only other thing on here that I haven't done anything with. Okay, so we'll get a little bit of flux on here. A little more flux. I really hate getting a lot of flux on these flex connectors because they just love to suck the flux up inside of the connector, and then they kind of get fused shut when they get filled with flux. No clean flux would probably be good for this. I've got some no clean flux on order, so we'll be trying that out in a future video. And I guess, heck, while I'm at it, I might as well rework this, the flex connector on this end as well. Because, I mean, if there is a problem with, like, poor signal, it's got to be somewhere in this chain. And I know it's working on my monitor, which means it'll probably work on my TV and it'll probably work on all my other capture cards. But it should work on the AVIO as well. And the fact that it doesn't bothers me. Or not the AVIO. It will work on the AVIO. That's my other capture card. It should work on the AverMedia card. That bothers me. That makes me wonder if it's an issue with this new design, or if it's you know, just bad soldering on my part, or what. I mean, there's got to be something going on to explain this. Nothing. Bizarre. Well, this really doesn't feel like a victory, even though I know it's working. I can't show it to you on direct capture, and that is frustrating. Well, I think we're going to call it here. I'm going to do more diagnostics on this, try to figure out what's going on. I have had faulty HDMI ports in the past. These HDMI ports that I'm using are pretty cheap ones, so I've had issues with them in the past with getting a good reliable connection for this particular capture card, so it could be something related to that. I might end up changing the part number for the HDMI port if it continues to be a problem. But yeah, I don't really know what else to do at this point, because I think I've eliminated all the other possibilities. It works on the monitor, but it's just something about the signal is not friendly to the capture cards, either of them. So that I would not consider to be okay. So at this point, I would still consider this current version of the mod maybe not something that I recommend doing. Maybe wait until I've done more research, and I'll do an update video on here whenever I figure out what's going on. But also the switch for the remote control doesn't seem to be working either. So I've got to figure out why that implementation didn't work out. And once I figured that stuff out, I think we should be okay. Maybe. But I'm not sure. So I'll let you know when I find out. But other than that, I guess that's it for today. And I'll let you know whenever I get some new news. Thanks for watching.